Now we will move on to the next reason for the poor state of industrial sector during the time of independence, that is low contribution to GDP. You know, handicraft industries declined, there is no development of any capital good industries. So you can just imagine what will be the contribution of industries to GDP. You know what is the definition of GDP. So ultimately the contribution of industrial sector to the GDP will be very less. As a result, what will happen? New investments will not be possible. So another reason for the poor state of industrial sector was low contribution to GDP. If there is low contribution to GDP, further investments will not take place. Next one is limited role of public sector. During the time of independence, our government had only a limited role. The full control was done by the Britishers. So our government sector, its role was limited only to certain public sectors such as railways, power generation, communication, etc. All other areas were handled and taken care, or it was controlled by the Britishers. Now, even though in the midst of this situation, one particular industry could survive in our country, and that is Tata Iron and Steel Company, and there is a box which is given in your textbook regarding its emergence and some features. Please go through it from your textbook. So limited role of the public sector is the next reason for the poor state of industrial sector. So we have learned about what were the reasons for the poor state of industrial sector. Now let us analyze the reasons for that one by one. What are the reasons for the poor state of industrial sector? Reasons are, first one, deindustrialization. Point number 2, second reason for the poor state of industrial sector is decline of handicraft industries due to discriminatory tariff policy. Then third reason is lack of capital good industries. Next one, low contribution to GDP, and the last one, limited role of public sector. Now we will move on to the next area, that is occupational structure. What were the problems related to occupational structure at the time of independence? So once again I repeat, we have completed we are learning about the problems related to the time of independence. What were the issues? How was Indian economy during the time of independence? In that we discussed low level of per capita income and its reasons. Point number 2, agricultural stagnation and its reasons. Poor state of infrastructure, industrial sector and its reasons. Next we are going on to occupational structure. What is meant by this occupational structure? Occupational structure means distribution of workforce, people who are working, simple as that. Workforce across the different industries and sectors. Spreading of people to different sectors or industries. The total workforce which are spread among the different sectors is known as workforce. During the colonial period, what was the problem related to the occupational structure? Two main problems during the time of independence related to occupational structure was predominance of primary occupation. What is the primary occupation of the people during the time of independence? You all know, agriculture. Now, how many percentage of people were engaged in that agricultural sector? It is 15% here. 85% of people were engaged in the agricultural sector. Rest of 15% were only engaged in the industrial sector. And I told you, even artisans were moving from the handicraft to which area? To the agricultural sector. So, obviously what happened? 85% of the people were engaged in the agricultural sector. Only 15% were engaged in the industrial sector. So it was divided as 85 and 15%. So predominance, dominance is for which sector? Agricultural sector, primary occupation. Now next is regional variation. there was a huge regional variation among the workforce. For example, in regions like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, less workforce was found in agricultural sector and more workforce was found in the industrial sector. Now, just opposite has happened in the places like, in the states like Orissa, Punjab, Rajasthan. More workforce was in the agricultural sector and less workforce in the industrial sector. So, in each and every state, there was regional variation of the people who are engaged in industrial sector as well as in the agricultural sector. So, this is all about the occupational structure. Occupational structure was not that stable. It was faced by two problems. First one is predominance in the primary occupation and the second one is regional variation. Now, we will move on to the demographic condition, that means condition of population, demography, population. What was the condition of population during the time of independence? You all can imagine what will be the condition of the population during the time of independence. It was pathetic. Now, India was backward Indian economy. Indian economy was backward in terms of demographic condition. Now, the first official census, you have learned about census in class 11 in a detailed manner and you all know what is it. Now, first official census was conducted in India in the year 1881. And after that, after every 10 years, it has become a habit for India. Census was taken every 10 years. Now, 1921 is known as the year of Great Divide. Why it is known as a year of Great Divide? It is a period where India faced the second stage of transition. Why do we call that? Because it is a period where India was trying to achieve the freedom struggle. 1921 is termed as a second stage of transition where a huge change in the population structure was experienced during that time in 1921. So, 1921 can be termed as a year of the stage of transition due to the changes in so many areas. Now, let us see what are the reasons for the backward Indian economy. What was the condition of demography, population? What was the condition of people during the time of independence? Point number 1, low medical facilities and poor health. Now, people were living in the slum areas in the cities. No proper sanitation. Then no proper drinking water facilities. This will ultimately lead to what? Airborne diseases and waterborne diseases. So, there was a poor state of health as well as low medical facilities. There was no proper medical facilities. So, due to that, the death rate was very high. The poor health of the people. There was no proper food for the people. Nutrition level was very low. So, people had a poor health and low medical facilities. Now, we will move on to the next one, that is high birth rate and high death rate. During the time of independence, there was a high birth rate and high death rate. What do you mean by birth rate and the death rate? What is meant by birth rate? Number of children born per 1,000 in an year. Out of 1,000, how many are born? That is how we calculate during an year is known as high birth rate. What is known as high death rate? Number of people dying per 1,000 in an year is known as death rate. So, the percentage of this birth rate and the death rate was very high during the time of independence. What will be the reason for the high birth rate? No proper knowledge for the people regarding the family planning. What will be the reason for the high death rate? Due to the lack of medical facilities. So, this was another reason for a backward economy during the time of independence. Now, let us move on to the next point. Low life expectancy. What is meant by life expectancy? The number of years that a person is expected to live is known as life expectancy. How many years that a person is expected to live is known as life expectancy. During the time of independence, the life expectancy was even below 44 years. And you can imagine what will be the reason for that. What will be the reason? Poor medical facilities, poor drinking water facilities, poor sanitation, because I told you in cities, people were living in the slum areas. And because of all these reasons, life expectancy was very low. There was no availability of nutritional food. So all these were the reasons for the low life expectancy. Next point is poverty. Due to the above said reason, poverty was common. There was a widespread poverty among different parts of our country. People didn't have enough food to eat. So lack of all these facilities. Poverty doesn't mean not only the non-availability of food. It also means lack of sanitation facilities, lack of drinking facilities. So children, when you think about the term poverty, poverty not only means non-availability of food, it also means lack of sanitation facilities, lack of drinking water. All these comes under this particular area. So because of all these, widespread poverty was common. Then we will move on to the next one, high infant mortality rate. So from the above discussed points, you can just imagine what was the condition of people during the time of independence. Next is high infant mortality rate. What do you mean by that? Below the age of 1, infant dying was very high. Their mortality rate was very high. Poor medical facilities. Because of all the reasons, the infant mortality rate was very high. There was no, government couldn't take any measures to control the infant mortality rate. Limited role of the government. Then next is low literacy rate. Literacy rate was very less. It was below even 16% and female literacy was even below 7%. And this literacy rate, as it was very low, it can be connected to the what? High birth rate. No proper knowledge for the people regarding the family planning. All these comes under that. So low literacy rate. Female literacy was even less than 7%. So you can imagine what is the situation of the people during that time. So these are the reasons for a backward Indian economy during the time of independence. Now we'll analyze the reasons once again. Demographic condition of the population was very pathetic. The reasons for the backward economy can be point number 1, low medical facilities and poor health, high birth rate and high death rate, low life expectancy which was below 44 years, poverty, widespread poverty, high infant mortality rate and low literacy rate. That's all for today, children. Thank you.